Okay guys, so in this video I want to cover a new tech card option for White Forest in Supreme Darkness format. This will focus on Delta of Temptation. I want to talk about why you might want to put this into your deck, what this kind of mini engine does, and I'll show you some basic lines with it, and then I'll go over two replays with Blue Eyes, the meta Blue Eyes deck with the new support, and then a pretty cool game with Red Dragon Archfiend. I'll be going second because that was requested in some of the comments recently. Okay, so first of all, what does this card do? Delta of Temptation is a field spell, because we don't have one. When this card is activated, you can send a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to the grave. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn, and you can also only activate this card once per turn. So, if a zombie monster is on the field, you can special summon a Delta token, which is a dark level 5/0/0. And then if a monster is added from the grave to the hand while this is in the graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. So this will trigger off of like Golden Lord, or it'll also trigger off of an LZ in your opponent's turn when it adds itself back because you've summoned a light spellcaster. Now the most generically useful card on either side of the dice roll is Lord. There aren't really many good targets for us using this as a sub-engine. So for new players or old players who haven't read this in years, Eldritch the Golden Lord says, you can send this card and one spell and trap from your hand to the graveyard, target one card on the field, send it to the grave. Because that is cost, this will trigger, your Tails, your Unleashing, etc. Then if this card is in your grave, you can send a spell or trap you control to the grave, add this card to your hand, then you can special summon a zombie from your hand, and if you do, until the end of your opponent's turn, it gains 1,000 attack and defense and can't be destroyed by card effects. The other card that works well with this is Wandering Titan of Tartarus. So this is a level 9 Earth, also doesn't have useful stats for us, but if this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, which is what Delta does, it has a mandatory trigger. Send as many cards you control as possible to the grave, so we will at least have one, because Delta will send the Wandering Titan. So send as many cards you control as possible to the grave, and if you do, special summon this card. Then, same effect, send cards your opponent controls to the graveyard up to the number sent to the grave by this effect. So if you Delta, dump Wandering Titan, Titan triggers, send the Delta, special itself, you will send one card, and neither player can activate monster effects in response to this effect's activation. So you can see how if you put, one or two other cards on field, that this could be a very useful board clear for when you go second. Then it has another effect which is not as good, for us at least. If this card is sent to the graveyard except from the deck, you can send a card from your hand to the grave, also as cost, so technically it will trigger, like Tails, Unleashing. Send one card on the field to the grave. I don't think this is very good because you'd have to have like a droplet, send this from your hand off the droplet, trigger this, send like something that will reset itself. It's just not very useful. Okay, so let me show you the basic lines. First of all, here's like the least impressive thing you can do with this. So let's say you're going first and you just want bodies. So Delta will send Lord, and Lord can send a spell or trap you control to the grave, so you send the same Delta to add it to hand and then special summon it. Now because the Delta was sent as cost, it will see the Lord being added from grave to the hand, which is the trigger requirement to add itself back. So now you have a free resource. This is not like drawing a brick that people say, oh well, you can just discard it. That's trash. This one gives you the body, and it is now a resource to use. So a Stellar in this case just represents a blank body. So the Delta plus anybody will give you, the closed heaven line, and then you can choose to go into like a sequence or a wave hiking Caesar or whatever. This kind of makes less sense in a vacuum, but when you actually play and don't look at Twitter combos, you'll see why this type of stuff is useful, and I'll show you this in some of the replays. Okay, so here's how Wandering Titan of Tartarus might work. I don't know if you can make the AI go first when you're playing on Omega, so I'm just allowing 2 turns to pass, but let's pretend that the opponent has gone first, they have some cards on field, and now it's our first turn and we're going second. So I'll put a body on field. Doesn't really matter if you do this, but I just want to show you. Now I'll activate Delta and send Wandering Titan. So we have 2 cards on field. We have Delta and we have whatever this random body is. So the Titan will trigger, send as many cards we control as possible to the grave, send the same number our opponent controls to the grave. They can't respond with monster effects. And then you'd continue playing from there. Okay, so I'll show you 2 games now. The first is with against Red Dragon Archfiend, and the second is against Blue Eyes. So this is really just to show you going second stuff, because as I mentioned, this has come up in the comments recently, and even though, so this one is not meta, the Blue Eyes one is, but because I'm not hand trapping this guy, a lot of rogue decks can put up really good boards, sometimes way better than actual meta deck end boards. They're just not as resilient to interactions, and that's why they're not meta decks, and you don't see them, topping YCSs and stuff like that. So I'm going to let him play out his hand, then I'll go over what he has on the field and talk about my thought process. So, first of all, because I don't have any banished cards, his Disbatter can only pop because he has a banished card. So we have a pop from Disbatter, we have the double special summon negate, we have the hot red negate, so that's a face-up card he can target and negate it. We have this, which doesn't really work as an interaction. Then we have this Oompa Loompa thing, which doesn't do anything either. So when I look at my hand, even though I am playing an unusually high number of power spells / breakers in this version, it is statistically very unusual to draw only one true engine piece. A typical hand, I would have 3 or 4 engine pieces and then 2 or 3 power spell pieces. So I look at the board and I realize that my win condition is A, Eclipse has to resolve, and B, I need to talents and draw 2 cards. So I can't just, like rely on a Sylvie ladder. I need him to use a monster effect. I guess I could Eclipse first, and if this were to resolve, like let's say I Eclipse, and this were to just resolve, like let's say he didn't have like a hot red or whatever, I would have to hope he had no hand traps, because if I were to normal summon Sylvie to go for tails and he hand trapped me, then I pass on nothing. Like if it was an imperm, for example. So just generally speaking, I want to be able to resolve the thrust. So I activate the Eclipse here. He changed the hot red, targeting the Eclipse to negate it, and I droplet to send the Eclipse. This doesn't need to resolve, it just needs to remove the target from the field. So that removes it from the field. Now I can thrust for talents and I can draw 2 cards. And now, of course, this is not lucky, just to be clear. Like, oh, you drew exactly what you needed. If I did not draw into 2 engine pieces, that would have been the most bizarre sequence of draws I've ever seen. So anyhow, here we Witch, and the Witch eats a hand trap, which is good, because the thing about Witch is when you get access to Deception, it kind of forces your opponent to do something, because the Hallowed will often bring in Ilia Sylvia. In my case, I want to make Sol, because it's better for board clearing, and my idea is I want to clear his board, establish my own board, and then he can't play through what I've created. And I know that I can get access to Deception anyhow when I ladder with the White Forest stuff. So I always want to use as much as possible. I don't want to Sylvie, he Veilers, and then I'm like, okay, now I can Talents. No, I want the Sylvie to resolve. That's why I sequence it this way. So now we Sylvie, now we search. We get Tails, we send Tails. Now we get access to Azamina Elzet. We add back for Tails, we Arciela, send the useless goat, we add Unleashing. Now the Azamina Elzet can go to the grave. And let me talk about this real quick. So, as I mentioned, the Witch goes first, not only because we care more about the White Forest cards, but because we can get this anyhow as we ladder with the Azamina Elzet, and now we have Deception anyhow. Also, the Diabel will choose to add back Eclipse, because even though I've searched Unleashing, after I've tried to clear as much of his board as possible, I need an insurance policy that isn't just Unleashing. So if Unleashing isn't enough, if I can't establish enough of a board, I want something else to save me from death so that I can then win on the second crackback. Okay, now I activate Deception. I bring out the Sylvie by shuffling back Arciela. I go for the Rusia because I want to get a draw, because I haven't used Unleashing's reset effect yet, and see what I get before I decide how to continue playing. So I summon Rusia, I send the Unleashing, I get a droplet, I reset Unleashing. So now it means that I have Unleashing, I have Eclipse, and I have Droplet. So I feel very comfortable with trying to clear his board, even though I won't be able to deal 8,000 damage. So yeah, now I go for the Closed Heaven. Requiem brings out the Engraver. Here I'm going to decide that I'm going to use Engraver instead of going into a wave hiking, which doesn't help me clear his board. It's just, something for the crackback. Something for the end board. I'm going to use the Requiem to pop a card, and now I tribute the Engraver for Deception, because the Engraver was brought off of Requiem, so he can still bring himself back from the grave. Whereas if I were to Requiem or Deception tribute the Diabel or the Rusia, that's not free at all. So here I get the Hallowed for Sol. Sol will pop one of the other higher defense bodies. The wave hiking was 18, the Oompa Loompa was 18, and the middle one I think is 25. Now I can shuffle back Azamina Elzet to give me Hallowed again. Engraver can bring himself back out for free. Now I can make Chaos Angel. I can get rid of the Crimson Gaia, because this one gives him engine access, and then he has this weird kind of win condition where if he declares an attack with this on the field, he can book my field, and then the guy that he's attacking with, there's this one guy that can blow up my entire, Raigeki my board basically. So here I attack, that card floats into the guy who can Raigeki the field if he has Crimson Gaia, and I go end phase. Now, important thing to note here, I opted not to wanted banish to put back Deception and draw 1 because I have Sol and I already have my field set up. So if I wait until the standby phase, not only do I get back the Deception off its own effect because it was sent while face up off the Hallowed, but the Sol will add back the wanted from my grave. So I get 2 cards instead of 1 draw, and the cards that I'll actually find useful on the crackback. So my opponent brings out the Oompa Loompa, and he specials the Engraver from grave. And Oompa Loompa is an Earth, but Chaos Angel only specifies that the non-tuner be light or dark. So he Chaos Angels to, so he knows where Unleashing is, and I guess he's trying to clear the unknown because he knows that he can't affect these 2 monsters, and I guess the Sol isn't doing anything, so he's picking an unknown back row. There's no reason for me to use Droplet here. I'll just, if I'm losing it anyhow, I'll send that as free fodder off of the Diabel, send his last back row, and now I have the Shrimp for a Chaos Angel whenever I want. Here he talents, but he has to draw 2, because if he takes, he can't win, and if he looks at my hand, it's obviously not going to do anything. So he has to draw 2, he gets the Witch off wanted. You could argue that maybe I should have goated here and called the Witch so he wouldn't be able to search off of it. But I also have a Cheng-Ying in my extra deck, which is an option from the Zapper Shrimp. So I want to keep the goat in my grave live. So here he tracks for Lurie, which will give him the Requiem, goes into Engraver. He tries to equip the Requiem, so here I will now use my triple Unleashing, because we have a Fiend, we have an Illusion, and we have an Illusion. So we get the triple bounce, and now I have left over, I have the Goat, the Zapper Shrimp, and the Book of Eclipse. And this is a light Chaos Angel. So my opponent summons the Witch, he goes for Deception, activates Deception. Obviously, I'm going to wait till he tributes something. I'm not just going to like preemptively Zapper Shrimp, bring out a Chaos Angel, banish the Deception, and he still has an Unknown in hand. But now, I know the previously Unknown, so he has Hallowed, he has Deception, he has Witch. So here, I'm going to Zapper Shrimp for Chaos Angel, banish Goat, call whatever. Because if I Shrimp for Chaos Angel and banish the Deception, the same play with Cheng-Ying banishes the Deception anyhow, plus a card from grave, plus is useful in the crackback, plus I keep the Chaos Angel for the second crackback. So yeah, now he wants to draw. He does this, actually a pretty cool ladder with Bone Archfiend. And this is the kind of like Raigeki play that I was talking about, where he's trying to go into one of the Red Dragon, it's literally called Red Dragon Archfiend. And so when he declares an attack, he can book my field, and then if he attacks a defense position monster, he can Raigeki the field. But remember, my insurance policy from the Diabel is my Eclipse. So I Eclipse the field, and he has no answer for that. He draws 2 in the end phase, doesn't really matter. I get back the LZ. My turn now. I can flip everything, and Chaos Angel, banish, triggers Cheng-Ying, and that's game. Okay, now the last game against Blue Eyes, and this is an actual good deck now. This is like, topping all the time in the OCG. So I have kind of a weird hand here, and I may think about trying Blue Eyes with White Forest, because the Link 1 requires a level 4 or lower dragon or spellcaster, and that searches their field spell. So let's have a look at what's on the field. Doesn't look super impressive. This card says neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters at the same time. Once per turn, when an effect of a card in the grave is activated, you can negate that activation. That's pretty good against White Forest. Quick effect, you contribute the Synchro Summon card, special summon a light dragon Synchro monster from your extra deck in defense position besides itself, but it's destroyed in the end phase. So this brings out the new Blue Eyes card, which is like, it negates anything that activates on field, I think. I think that's once per turn. And yeah, this one stops me from targeting his... yeah, I can't target Blue Eyes White Dragon in his monster zone. Oh, just Blue Eyes White Dragon? But this doesn't count as Blue Eyes White Dragon, right? And then if it's sent to the graveyard, you destroy all monsters you control, but that has some other synergy with some of his stuff. So here I'm thinking that I need to see how he responds to my effects, and I want to droplet this card. I don't want this card to be able to resolve. So I summon the Sylvie to see what he does. And he chains Veiler, so I chain Droplet because I'm going to dodge the Veiler. And, I can't negate the Veiler with the Droplet, so if I don't send the Sylvie itself, I think maybe it was wrong to send the Sylvie, actually, in hindsight. Maybe what I should have done is I should have chained Wanted and then chain Droplet and send the Wanted off the Droplet and see what he does there, and keep the negated Sylvie because I have the tails anyhow. Maybe I should have done a play like that, and then I would have searched the Azamina LZ if he allowed me off the tails, and then try to go into like a Silvera or something and force his interaction. So maybe I didn't play this the right way, so I get rid of my body, and I try to Droplet the Spirit Dragon. But even though he can't respond with monster effects, which is ultimately why I did decide to send the Sylvie, actually that was still a bad idea because I could have also sent the Rusia. I was thinking of this too narrowly as an extender, but I really should have thought of my Sylvie body as being a lot more important because it was already on field making my tails live. But he changed the trap to special summon a Blue Eyes monster so that he's not responding to Droplet with a monster, he's responding with a trap, and then he can go Chainlink 5 Spirit Dragon to bring out the big guy. So now he has the Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon, which says your opponent can't banish cards from the grave. I guess that's good against Malice. You can only use each of the following effects of Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon once per turn. When a card or effect is activated on the field, you can negate the activation, and if you do, this card gains 1000 attack until the end of the turn. That seems pretty good for OTKing. And then if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a light dragon monster from your graveyard besides itself. So I guess that can bring this one back, or the other stuff too. So yeah, in hindsight, I think I played that beginning part maybe poorly, and I should have valued the body staying on field for the tails to resolve a lot more. So now what I'm forced to do is to go Hallowed and chain Wanted. But what he does here is, because remember, Hallowed has to send a Sinful Spoils card to the grave to resolve. So he chains the Trap card, where you can show up to 3 Blue Eyes from your hand, face up, field, or grave, and then destroy that many cards your opponent controls. So if he destroys the Wanted, this will go to the grave, then Hallowed will try to resolve, have nothing to send, and fizzle. So I'm now like, I'm in struggle city. I pitch the Unleashing, which doesn't help me right now, hoping that, you know, if a spellcaster stays on field, I can finally tails, maybe search the Azamina LZ, which was what I should have done before by keeping the Sylvie on field. Then I would have had Azamina LZ, Rusia special from hand, and then I would go, you know, I could even chain block if I wanted the Silvera to book his field or whatever. I mean, I don't really know if I could have won from there, but I'm just saying I think I made a mistake. So here I go Witch, I activate Set Deception, activate Deception. Now I activate Tails, but he has the Ash, which is like, it's unfortunate because I was feeling like, okay, I think I might be able to win now, because if I Tails for the LZ, I could LZ send the Deception. You know, that searches Azamina LZ. Now I have Witch on field. I would have LZ on field. I would have Rusia to special, Azamina LZ to complete the ladder. I would have stuff to, you know, like recycle my Silvera or Arciela or whatever in grave. I could even go into like, you know, a Moon play if I was able to clear some of his board. I just have to figure out, you know, am I going like Sol, send the trap, Chaos Angel, wait, like play a grind game, whatever I'm doing. But here he ashes the tails, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I Deception Tribute the Witch, and then he has an Ogre for the Deception, and so I look for a draw, and I'm like, okay, well, at least let me thrust for a Talents here. I Talents draw 2, and it's the same Deception that I already attempted to use, so it's dead, and in this particular version of the deck, I'm only playing 1 Engraver, which is now a brick. So I drew into 2 1-ofs, one which had been used and one which is a brick, and now I have no chance of winning, so I lose that game. Okay, so I think that's enough for this video. I don't think this is like the most amazing card in the world, but I do think it offers a unique point of interaction, and Lord is a very tricky kind of card to deal with, where you can, if you go second, you can immediately force something, which is great for thrust and talents plays. I kind of like the idea of playing triple tails when you're not on like the toy or the Millennium stuff, because you have a little bit more space. There's more likelihood that you'll have a good send-off of stuff like Lord. So I think this is something that you could consider playing. If you are going to play a more Eldritch-centered version of this deck, this card will become much, much better. But that's the breakdown of Delta for now. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching.